What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, and this is part 52 of my reviewing and ultimately ranking Frank Zappa's guitar solos within the context of an album. Today's album, The Mother's 1970. I have reviewed this album elsewhere on this channel, back when it came out. I think it was 2020, a couple weeks, maybe a month after it, so it's a pretty fresh take. So if you're interested in thoughts on things other than the guitar solo, check out that video. But yeah, I'm just going to rank the guitar solos. Then I'm going to rank this album based on guitar solos only with the other albums. I like the guitar playing on here, but I think this is Frank sort of mid. Frank, I think if you had to like track out his career quality-wise, or at least the quality that I hear, like 70s a plateau, and he would kind of reach an early peak in 71 and kind of plateau for a couple years and peak again in 74, always kind of getting better and, you know, experimenting and doing different things. So we had these sort of like, oh yeah, we're here, and then we're getting, oh, this is a peak, and then we drop down, it's another peak. A lot of that had to do with who was on drums, who was on bass, what the songs were. But it was really hard to rank a lot of these because the Dunbar, Ainsley Dunbar on drums, Jeff Simmons on bass, George Duke on keyboards, rhythm section is fantastic. And Dunbar has this groove that he kind of sets up. Sometimes it's a lot, very swinging, has this swinging vibe. I appreciate Simmons' bass way more after listening to this box set than I think I do in any other releases he's on. And anytime Duke is contributing, even mostly on the organ, a lot of good organ keyboard sounds, he's always adding to the solos. So like, there's a whole bunch of solos on here. I numerically rank these, and there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 that are just like that, right? I do think the top, I mean, like numerically, they're like 3 or 4 numbers, like 9.5, 9.4. I mean, they're not that high. They're all right next to each other. So there's not much differentiation between them. I do think the top 2 solos are by far the best. Not by far, but a little bit the best just because of the way they're presented. I'll get to that one when I get to that. But yeah, not the best tour or the best release for guitar playing, but I think there is some enjoyable stuff on here. There's 20 of them. I'm going to go in order from 20 to 1. At the end of the list, I'll put the list on the screen so you can look at it. Then I will rank the album. Number 20, Item 1. This is sort of like the Tommy Vincent duo from Funky Nothingness. Frank and Dunbar are just kind of jamming out. There's 2 of these on here. 3 of them, actually. One of them's one of them's an edit of the other 2. So 2. And I think Frank's on bass on one of them. But either way, this solo is a lot of rhythm work. Kind of reminds me of like, I think there was a solo from something where Frank's like, I'm going to play a rhythm guitar solo from like a previous release, and it's a 75 release. And it's like, okay, that was interesting, but did we really need it? Not sure we did. So it's kind of interesting more than anything else. Number 19 is Charlina. It's a nice little solo at the end when the vocals are still going and Frank's kind of winding his way around the flow and Eddie screaming. Kind of nice. Adds energy to the end of the song, but there's not much to it. Number 18 is the lead-off track in the entire box set, Red Tubular Lighter, which I also think it's just more interesting than it is. I don't want to say it's bad, but I don't know. I'm not really compelled to go back and listen to it again. It's Frank Zappa and Ainsley Dunbar just jamming. Later on this list and later in the box set, there's the unedited master of the jam. And there's like a good minute and 30 to 40 seconds of probably the best soloing in the unedited master that's left out of the edited master. So I'm thinking Frank was going to do something else with this music and maybe create a song, maybe lay something else over it, because he took out the best part. But the best part is just him more solo and aggressively, where there's a lot more kind of riffing and chord playing and idea creating in what we're left with. The title, Red Tubular Lighter, it's kind of what the music sounds like. It's named appropriately. Number 17 is Wonderful Wino, parentheses FZ vocal. There are a couple Wonderful Winos on this list and on this box set. This one is a really kind of has very intense, very methodical burst of energy. It's kind of short, maybe a little too short. That's why it's down here at the bottom of the list. But it also is kind of nasty. Frank's playing on Wonderful Wino, I think, throughout the years is always pretty fantastic. It's just usually too short. I think he should have jammed out this groove a little bit longer than he does here, at least. 16 is Road Ladies, just some really standard, good rock and roll energy, some good just rock and roll. Frank's playing that rock and roll vibe. Road Ladies is a little more of a rock and roll song, celebrating the rock and roll women, not the ones who are on stage, but the ones waiting behind stage, off stage, backstage. But yeah, it's just got some good energy. Yeah, good little guitar song. Number 15 is Wonderful Wino, the one that is the live version on disc 2. This has some really great energy. There's some really good sort of keyboard, I think it's organ work by George Duke that's sort of like pretty much kind of giving it just this kind of grittier little bit vibe. And the ending of the solo is pretty frantic and kind of nice. A very nice sort of live offering for Wonderful Wino. Number 14 is the unedited master of Red Tubular Lighter, which has that awesome like minute and 30 section part where Frank's just going off. It's probably the best part of the song. I think the song was like reduced to almost in half with all the little bits and pieces that were taken out. I don't think this, like the unedited master, is one of the greatest things ever, but I do think it's a lot more interesting with those parts that Frank took out. I think those connective tissues help develop a lot of the flavors better, and makes me think that Frank had other plans for this song because he kind of did take out a lot of the best parts. So interesting. Though there is a little chorded jam part in this, similar to item 1 that he took out, which I was okay with that. Number 13 is the first of 2 Colony Vegetables. This is the live one from disc 2, the 618 show. It starts off kind of meek, kind of jazzy, kind of like Frank doesn't really know what he's going to do with this. And then about 30 seconds in, we get gritty. We get a little more intense. It's still pretty short, but it's a fun little early, let's work this out, Colony Vegetable solo. It's kind of nice. Number 12 is Wonderful Wino. This is FC vocal, alternate solo, alt solo. And the alt solo is just drenched in these crazy effects. It's very manic. It's very playful. It's very weird. It's a lot more aggressive. It does sound like Frank's experimenting in the studio with like different sounds, giving the guitar different vibes and different energy. I think this works perfectly. I think we needed more craziness on these solos, more sound effects. It's wonderful. And it really is almost jarring at first, but then like, oh yeah, this is good. I like this. Number 11 is, and now we're getting to the ones that are all pretty much rated all within like 0.2 or 0.3 of each other. I think they're all pretty excellent solos. Number 11 is King Kong Part 2 off disc 3. All the part 1s are usually like, I think a keyboard solo. Then we get Igor's Boogie. Then we get Part 2 where Frank usually starts off right away soloing in Part 2. On this one, this is the one from which disc? Disc 3, the second of the live shows. Frank comes out just bending the notes, ready to attack as soon as he hits the solo. It's got some pretty good energy. At some point, like right in the middle of it, the groove just kind of slows down, like we just downshift pretty drastically. That's the most interesting part of the solo. Like the first part of the solo when Frank's just kind of bending and kind of going being a little more aggressive. It sounds like he's setting up for something. And then we do this downshift. We're like, okay, this isn't where I thought we were going, but this is pretty interesting. But that ends way too soon. And the problem is with all of these is after it ends, Ian Underwood comes in and drops a saxophone solo. And the 2 saxophone solos that are featured in these 2 live King Kongs from like the 2 live shows, disc 2 and 3, are probably the 2 best solos on this entire box set. Ian Underwood is absolutely killing it, but this isn't a ranking of Underwood solos. This is a ranking of Frank solos. So the first King Kong falls to the second King Kong. The one in part 2 falls to number 11. Colony Vegetable from disc 3. Also is number 10. It's not also number 10. It is number 10. From the beginning, this one is bluesier. It's tighter. It feels more cohesive. It doesn't have one of those vibes where Frank's exploring ideas for 30 seconds and then like gets gritty and it's like, this is where I'm going to go. Feels like he has an idea from the beginning. The third disc has much poorer sound quality than the first disc. So the sound quality on this one is not as good, but The solo's better. The ending is pretty gritty and pretty nice. Frank's going for a little bit longer than he does on the first one. It's a pretty good solo. Again, I think he has better, as Call Any Vegetable would stick around for the next year and a half. I think it gets better. The solos get more interesting, but we're starting to get there with this Call Any Vegetable from disc 3. Number 9, Trouble Every Day. Just great energy. The whole song is great energy. The solo feels like it's just nothing but peaks. Like Frank's doing a volcano solo, and he's doing a volcano solo, and he's doing a volcano solo. Just really short burst of intense, like guitar playing. It's not very long. It doesn't feel like, I don't know what it feels like. It almost feels like it's not really a fully developed solo. It feels like it's about to end. Like Frank's just doing something short and we're going to end. But it doesn't. So Frank does something really quick again. But then Frank does something really quick again. And so it's just a really neat little ride. It's like a really, really, really short roller coaster ride with like 4 peaks. But because the entire song is just infused with this guitar energy, it's getting all the way up to number 9. The solo could have been longer, but it's pretty good what we get. Number 8 is the first of 2 Pound for a Browns. This is the one on disc 3. Where is that one? Yeah, this is a really nice flow to it, a very playful start. Gets kind of a little funky a little bit, maybe more swingy funky, that Dunbar sort of groove that comes in. Really nice sort of interaction between Zappa and Dunbar in this, as they maybe a little call and response action, or maybe like not necessarily call and response, but do something new and I will follow you, and then you do something new and I will follow you, kind of a back and forth. Really good energy, feeding off each other, kind of prolonging the solo for good length. Pretty good Pound for a Pound solo. That's number 8. Number 7 is another King Kong. This is the one on disc 2, part 2, which is where Frank's solos reside. This one, Frank comes in dancing in. Like he's like playing with that Igor's Boogie melody as he comes in. He's kind of like dancing and just kind of like, yeah, I'm here. And then it gets kind of funky. And then we get some really off kilter, maybe off rhythm type playing. Like Frank's trying to force us to go into another direction. It kind of has a feel of like, it's kind of a Dupree's Paradise intro, where like you start off really soft and then he builds ideas, then he'll go to one level and he'll kind of finish off with the other level. Instead of spending like 6 or 7 minutes as he would with the Dupree's, he's condensed it to like 3.5, maybe 4. So everything's kind of coming a little bit sooner than it would like 4 years down the line. 3 years down the line. But it's really good. Got some really good energy. This is kind of a typical Frank, this is my solo spot solo, where I'm going to start off like really simple and then build and get intense, but just kind of shortened. As it would get longer with Zoodalures and Dupree's Paradise and Yo Mama and throughout the years. But this is kind of one of the first ones where he's really starting to set that template for what his guitar solos would be in the future. Number 6 is King Kong Solos Part 1 from the 4th disc. Yeah, this just, again, the solos start off right with Frank Zappa. It seems like he has sort of this melodic idea, this theme that he's kind of playing with, that's kind of nice, and he digs into it, then things get really weird, and he starts bending. We get some really good feedback, some really good, awesome energy throughout this whole thing. Yeah, really good. Too short by probably however much longer he could play. It's too short by that amount of time. But yeah, really good solo. Yeah, the King Solos Part 1. This was a good release. This is on the 4th disc, where we don't get complete shows or bootlegs. We just get like random good stuff that Frank recorded there that, the ZFT thought we should hear. Yeah, I'm glad we heard this one. That's number 6. Number 5 is Easy Meat. And Easy Meat, I don't know why this song was dropped from set list and did not return until like, the latter part of the decade. It sounds good. It's got that slow death vamp that Busby coined, the term death vamp for these vamps. I'm sure he didn't come up with that term, but he applied it to this, the 78 version. But Frank's attacking pretty much the entire time. But the bass, Jeff Simmons, the bass. Plus, even though we have this death vamp, the Dunbar Simmons combination is just completely able to like override it in a way that even Vinny and Barrow weren't able to do in like 78 and 79. Like, I don't know. It works. I'm okay with this version of Easy Meat. Like, this is good. And it starts off right away with the vocals. We don't get any sort of intro. This is a really good solo, really good energy. Frank's attacking it. Sounds like he's having a great time playing. Yeah, I just don't understand why this was dropped from Salas. Fantastic guitar energy. Number 4 is King Kong Solos Part 2. Also starts off with Frank. Really nice groove. There's some really nice interplay with Duke. Duke is very present in this one. Gets really noisy towards the end and just kind of just gets all crazy and all over the place. And then it just kind of falls apart. And it almost seems like it's going to fall apart. And maybe Frank's going to pick up the pieces and keep going. But no, it just kind of falls apart. And Ian eventually takes over. But it's great. It's great energy. It's a great attack. Frank's really comfortable. He's really attacking hard. He's going at it. Got a really nice groove. That Dunbar, the Dunbar Simmons rhythm section, man. Yeah, I after listening to these solos with as intent ears as I did this time, much more respect for them. I had respect for them before, but it went up a little. It went up a little. But yeah, really good. And the fact that it gets kind of noisy and chaotic towards the end is a big plus. And then it just kind of falls apart, which I like. Number 3, Pound for a Brown off the final disc. Yeah, this one just from the beginning, just like it's almost like as soon as we're into the Pound for a Brown thing, the gates are open and Frank Zappa on his horse, on his Greyhound, on whatever he's racing on, he's off to the races. He's just going. He's out of the gate. We got some swing in this. We got some strut in this. Yeah, it's got a little kind of this groove that reminds me of the next song that's going to be on this list. Just this really nice kind of heavy sort of groove. And then after we get these groove, we get these like interesting little pockets of clarity where things kind of seem to clear up for a while. And Frank's doing maybe some more like melodic jazzy stuff. And then we go back into like the heavy stuff. So it's got this sort of like back and forth type feel. But yeah, it's just really good playing. And it's really Frank's in the pocket and really feeling this band. And the energy's great. And yeah. Pound for a Brown, the one on disc 4. Then the next 2 are both guitar solos, but not in the context of their songs. The first one is Portuguese Fenders. I think this was actually like the lead single or the lead digital release that they dropped for this. It sounds like it could be coming from a King Kong. It sounds like maybe it could be coming from a kind of aggressive Pound for a Brown. I don't know. But it starts off with just this awesome sort of power chord groove, this like that we're just setting up, and there's a swing and there's a groove. And once we establish that groove, Frank just starts playing and he just starts going off. And this is really, it's just magical. It's absolutely phenomenal. So much good energy. We don't know what song it comes out of, but who cares? We just get 3+ minutes of awesome guitar playing with an awesome rhythm section and just an awesome vibe. And then the number 1 song, pretty much the exact same thing as Portuguese Fenders. It is a guitar solo. I don't know where it comes from. Could be a King Kong, could be a Pound for a Brown, could be from a holiday in Berlin, maybe? Were they dropping those in 70? I don't remember, because we get a straight up holiday in Berlin / Inca Roads quote dropped in the middle of this, but it's Guitar Build 70. Guitar Build 70, again, we're just dropping in the middle of a guitar solo. It's just a jam. It's got this weird percussive element in the intro. I don't know if it's like a keyboard element or Dunbar's playing something else, but there's this weird little percussive element in the beginning that seeps in that gives it just a different feel. It's got a great energy. Right in the middle, we get that Holiday in Berlin / Inca Roads quote. And then right towards the end, we get Frank, right before like the solo kind of drops out and we kind of give up a little bit of our intensity. Frank hits this note and he holds this note, kind of bends it a couple times to like make it last, or, to make it kind of get a little more juice out of it for a straight up 30 seconds. And it's interesting once the rest of the band realizes that's what he's doing, how they respond to that, give it space and then give it energy and then give it, it's great. It's a very, very Santana moment. I think Frank must have been listening to some Santana, one of his early albums. He's like, I'm going to start holding my notes as long as possible too. It's a great solo. But anyways, that's number 1. That's what they all look like in typewritten order right there. Those top 11 are the ones that I think are like the cream of the crop, and there's some good ones below that. But really, those top 11s are the ones that kind of run together and are just really good feeling jams and all that kind of stuff. But where would I rank the album if I had to rank the album? I have it all the way up at number 26. I think there are solos below that are better. Like most of those releases, or a lot of them, we'll have one solo which is far better, maybe two solos, which are far better than anything on Mother's 1970. But I really like this. I really enjoy this groove. I really have come to, just in the course of the last couple of days listening to these, appreciate the Dunbar Simmons rhythm section to a much greater degree. And I'm finding a lot more enjoyment in these solos. I know Frank's playing will still have a lot of ways to develop, and he's still kind of just feeding into energy and riding the pocket. And very seldom is he really kind of pushing boundaries, but that's okay. It sounds great. It's a good time. So yeah, I think if I had to pick like, what do I want to listen to simply for guitar solos, I'm putting that above things like Does Humor Belong in Music and Funky Nothingness. I think the consistency throughout is there, and there's a lot of tracks, so that helps. And, 11 of them I think are pretty enjoyable. So yeah, and even the worst ones are whatever. All right, yeah, so it's 26, whatever. I don't know if that's right or wrong. It's what I'm feeling today. Right in the middle of the list, which is, I think, right where the box set fell when I ranked the box set, was like right in the middle of all the releases. So I think it makes sense. All right, but that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share. If you've listened to this and you have opinions, let me know your opinions, your thoughts. And if you do go listen to it and you think I'm right, you think I'm wrong, let me know those thoughts too. But anyways, yeah, thanks. Stay warm, people. If you're in the United States, like, I think the entire country is like going to like frozen, it's going to be horrible in the upcoming week. So stay warm, people. Stay warm. And yeah, that's all I got. Peace. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later.